It's 10 a.m. Thursday, November 21st, 2024. We call this meeting to order. We're here to meet with the Sheriff's Office for a variety of issues. So I'm going to turn it over to the Sheriff and see what you got.
All right, well, they're not all issues. Some are just some planning that we want to make sure that you're aware about. Everybody who's at the table is in charge of a project, and they're going to give you a small presentation of what they have to report. And I'm not sure who wants to kick it off. I'll have the captain kick it off since he kind of planned it.
Okay. Yep, absolutely. Well, in that case, we can dive straight to vehicles, the thing that we kind of tabled from last year. It's kind of a complicated one, obviously, because we were talking about how to fund it and everything. My understanding is, and I brought this up at a couple of meetings, is that $70,000 is still in the grant fund that was pre-approved for vehicles. Is that correct from last year?
Oh, from the 890
Yes.
capital one?
Yes.
Let me look that up. I believe so. Is that what I sent you on the spreadsheet?
Oh, I didn't print those.
Okay. I'll look it up.
Perfect. So while she's doing that, I went ahead and got some bids. We are in critical with our vehicle status. Essentially what we started doing is we were paying for, to save some of this cost, we were paying for a lot of our fixes here in the valley. We've been able to cut costs significantly, even one this week that was by like 80% by taking over the Coeur d'Alene shop. So we're probably shopping a lot more. And so we still are saving money. However, these fixes are coming up more than ever now that a significant portion of the fleet is over 140,000 miles. Most agencies decommission vehicles at 110, 120 at the latest. So the fact that we're up in the 140 range is starting to show significant problems. So we're shoveling out massive amounts of money for each vehicle now for fixes to possibly only last an additional year or two, really. So those costs start piling up if we don't start decommissioning the vehicle that we really need to. And also safety and pursuits has become a serious concern as well. As I've even driven a couple of these vehicles, and one of which I got up over 70 miles an hour, and it actually, I thought it was going to crash because I didn't know that it was in that poor shape. So if you guys would like to see the list, I sent this to Commissioner Zimmerman as well. These are the ones that are decommissioned and on the way out, and then there's an additional 2 that is also going to be decommissioned as soon as possible. There's a few options to go forward with the fleet that we've been discussing. Either switch some of the admin staff over to unmarks, I should say base level vehicles with no additives, such as like radios, cages, that type of things, because that will save us some money. That's a significant cost with every one. It's like $20,000 to $25,000 per one. And we could also possibly downgrade vehicles. So I went out and got a couple quotes. These aren't ideal, but to save money, these could work. So the Ford Mavericks are actually showing great gas mileage. You can get an all-wheel drive. The quote came in around $2,900. $29,000. $2,900 is better. Yeah. And then the Ford Escape came in at $31,000, and there's a couple other options too. We could buy newly used is an option that came up as well for specifically the detective position, my position, and Captain Mokul's position, and the undersheriff. And the sheriff vehicle typically needs to be marked and fully kitted to a point. So, but we can discuss that further later. So essentially we're asking for the most cost-effective way that I can see this occurring. We could extend the fleet and save money for a short term for like a year or so, but then we're in dire straits kind of again, is if we got 1 patrol vehicle and 2 Ford Mavericks. That's kind of the cheapest way to go. Thing is, they're on a wait list, so we wouldn't even get those Ford Mavericks for some time. It'd be probably 6 months to 9 months when we received them. And that's the other thing to consider with these, is we're really planning, it takes 6 to 9 months before we get these vehicles, so we'll need to be addressing next year's in about 6 to 9 months.
And then the vehicles that you and the undersheriff drive would be rotated into patrol for use?
Correct. Rotate and patrol for use. We just outfit them with cages because they're already outfitted with radios and such, so it'd be a much cheaper way to do it. However, the vehicle I drive is actually at 130,000 miles, so how long that's going to last, we don't know. And then the undersheriff's at 90,000 miles, so that one should last a few years on patrol, so it would extend. But then we will be back into the same issue if we go that route at the end of next year.
About how many miles per year do we put on a patrol vehicle average?
It really depends, but I would say the best average I've found so far is 20 to 25,000. Sometimes upwards of 30, but you do factor in the admin vehicles and stuff too. So I'd say 20 to 25,000 is an estimate. I would say for planning purposes, it'd be good to shoot for 25,000.
And what about the vehicles that the undersheriff and you guys use?
It really depends. So like last year, I put on a lot of miles because we were doing a significant amount of proactivity to bring down the crime, which was successful this year, it appears. So this year I put on far less miles. So it really depends how many scenes I'm out on and such. But I would say, yeah, that's a tough number to say. That one fluctuates so much. But I would say 10 to 15,000 would be a
I think that
decent
would be,
shot.
yeah, I would agree with that.
So best case scenario financially would be a patrol vehicle and 2 Mavericks.
Correct.
At what cost?
I would say a rough estimate for all three would come in at, well, let me do that. Depends also if we get the V8 or the V6. I think the V6 is probably fine, so 43. I always go worst case, or like on that brand, I would say that's probably roughly around 120,000. Whereas in 3 patrol vehicles, you're looking at, I think, roughly 200,000.
And we budgeted how much?
We budgeted 0. That we were told we were tabling that for later, and it's future problems.
Just for the public's
Yeah.
interest. I thought I'd.
Right.
And did you come up with a number?
I did. So the regular patrol vehicles, there was 46,600 left in there, and the jail was 24,700. So between the two, we had 71,000.
How much was the jail?
24,700. And those are just rounded.
Okay. Easier.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're talking about is using, which fund would we be using if we,
LETCF.
and where does that sit right now? Ballpark.
As far as cash balance in it, oh boy.
I'm just testing you this morning.
Let's see if I got that.
Yeah, it's not Monday, so no excuses.
About 3 million left in that. Increase my time.
So we'd need another 49, if I'm adding right, if we wanted to do the patrol vehicle and the 2 Mavericks.
And you've already got the actual estimates and quotes.
So I have the one quote to go out, as hopefully you guys remember from last year, is quite a undertaking. So as long as I have to go ahead to then go get all 3, I will go out and get all 3 bids, bring them before the board, as long as that's the intentions now to go down that road.
Yeah. And since he's currently working on it, I think I'd like to see all of the bids and whatnot when we get them before.
Okay, but I think he's looking for a direction from us.
Direction to be able
So,
to pay for it.
I don't see any way we can afford to let the patrol vehicles fall behind.
No.
That would cost even more down the road. So
Expensive this year being decommissioned.
I hope the rest of these presentations are cheaper than his.
They are.
I pulled a short straw a lot.
Yeah. All right. So we would need bids to do anything official, but I think we could give them, all you need today is direction.
Correct.
Okay. I'm willing to proceed with that. Are you?
I am too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we won't vote on anything until we see bids, but you got permission to go ahead and do all the nasty legwork and get those bids, so. Okay. All right.
Next up, Katie has, before you start, I'll just preface that the state of Idaho is no longer providing us the ability to print identification cards for law enforcement, identification cards for county employees. We call them commission cards. I'm not sure what the county sector calls them, but employee identification cards. So we had to go, the state put it on the counties to find a way out, and we have to fund it. So, Katie, you're up.
So last year, you guys had put aside about $3,000 of grant money to pay for one. I have got a quote here from IDville for a printer with some supplies to cover. We thought, after we've looked at what we've had, a one-sided printer. We don't need to do two sides. This will do a holographic on it. This will pay for the printer and some extra supplies. Get it here in time for doing everything by the new year. And worst case, I know Casey was at a meeting and he had spoke with Dan Martinson, and if we didn't want to take it all out of the money she had, he does have some money set aside in his funds that we could probably, he would assist with paying with it as well. He had told him that he could help pay with it.
Did he give a number?
He didn't give a number. He just said he does have monies he could put into it. So I could contact him if we want to see if he wants to maybe help split it, or because these things aren't cheap and his employees are going to be utilizing it as well.
I would say let's look under his
Okay.
availability under those funds.
I will
I
say,
know it's a large expense, but if it's going to be utilized for emergency, I think it
yeah,
would
it's
fall
for
good
county
under that.
employees, it's for
All
city,
employees. Yep.
police, our
Everybody
office.
uses it.
Yeah, all
Let's
county
investigate
employees.
and see what he
Okay.
has. That sounds like a good idea.
So I'll see how much he can pay. And then once I get that number, once I find out how much he can pay, can I get the go ahead to get this going?
Out of the 3,000 that we already,
Worst case. I mean, if he can only contribute 1,000, but that way we have it here in time for the new year. Holly's commission cards expire at the beginning of the year. So
Holly says?
Holly's do because her terms, but when her term ends, all of her commission cards have to be.
Okay.
And I'm sure, I don't know if any of your guys' employees are that way too.
We don't need any bids for a $3,000.
That's your discretion.
Right.
I looked at some on Amazon and they don't come with the warranties. They don't come with any of the, this has a warranty on it. This comes with the program, the camera, everything.
Okay. Would you be interested in a motion to let them spend whatever's necessary out of the 3,000?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the purchase and investigate of
Yeah.
what other funds we can get towards it. So yeah, the $26,2895 that you've presented.
And I'll contact Dan today.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. See, yours was a lot easier
have
to
another
swallow. There. She has two.
So
Sneaky, Sheriff, sneaky.
Thank you.
during the budget time, we had taken our lease payments off of our budget, and we had talked two different options of you guys making either this year's lease payments of roughly $40,000 or just paying the leases off of a roughly $80,000. We've already made one lease payment this year, and there's not a line item for that, so it's just kind of sitting on our budget. But I don't know which route we want to go, but I have some printouts for you guys if you want to look.
Now we paid off one lease, right?
If you'll
Right
see,
off the bat.
here you go, here's one more. So we had some extra payments last year, so we had some money left over from that $100,000. So I actually paid off 2 leases and made an extra payment on one. So we have 4 leases left. And that bottom one is the one hitting us the hardest. It's accruing almost $1,300 extra in interest a year. And that one has a few years that isn't paid off until 27. So it's accruing a lot of interest a year.
Are you talking about the Dodge Ram?
Yeah, the one from First Interstate. So, I didn't know what we wanted to do, but we do not have a line item at all in our budget for leases. So we had talked about doing two separate things, either paying this year's or paying them off during budget. So let me just throw that at you guys too.
Okay, you just passed the captain.
Well, it's less than his.
And technically it's still attached to me. She's just helping share the load of this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, we knew this was coming. And we would need how much if we just want to pay this year's 40?
So it's roughly 40,000. I think it was like 39 something, but I don't know. I mean, that's without adding the $1,300 of interest. So it might be about 41 with that interest added in.
But am I correct in saying that we actually save $5,000 if we pay it all off?
Yes, because it's not accruing all of that interest.
And did we talk about doing this out of the Slurpee too?
Yes, we talked about using grant money.
So everything will be lettuce now. And we were able to, through the different budget things, Slurpee has now been obligated for, it's completely done. So we're good with that. Everything now moves to the lettuce money.
It would all be lettuce. In more ways than one.
And it's not grant money.
Okay. Oh,
Just so people know. Yeah. If they're watching.
What do you think?
We need to look at this, and I'd like to get some better figures.
okay. This is the spreadsheet that
Okay.
we've just always had.
Okay.
They're obviously not payoff numbers. They don't
Yeah.
provide those to you unless you ask for them. I'd have to get Carrie to get those numbers for me.
Okay.
Okay, so what you want to postpone this one? Is that what you're
I
saying?
would like to look at it more and be able to pull up their budget.
And I have, if you want, I have October's and November, or September and October's here if you just want these copies.
Okay.
I can reprint them so you can just have those for you.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I could look them up. I just don't have my.
You're okay.
Okay, so am I hearing you right that you'd like to wait before we take any action on this?
Yeah, I'd like to look at it a little more in detail. But yeah, if we could save money by getting them paid off
Right.
without accruing any more interest.
Okay, so the
And I'm not
answer
against
on
that, I
yours
just want
is,
to have a little more time to look at the numbers.
give us some time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Sheriff, we're really on a roll here.
All right, next up I'll have Director Van Busker talk about some 911.
All right. I have two on the agenda. Start with perhaps the easy one, the Western States contract. I don't know.
Can you explain what that is for the publics?
Yeah, this is a maintenance contract for the generator that we have in the basement that is dedicated for the 911 service in the Emergency Communications Center. It was purchased via grant in 2019, I believe. And it was an easy sign-off when we first got it for the maintenance because they installed it and they would come back on a regular basis and maintain it. And its usefulness was tested with the windstorm shortly after its installation, and it ran nonstop for a week to keep it. So it's, if you want to talk about the importance of it, that's an easy discussion. The difference for this one from the previous contract is through grant money. The grant actually from the IPSCC, the Idaho Public Safety Communications Commission, actually pays certain maintenance fees. Like 90% the second year, 80% the third year, 70%. Well, we're beyond those 3 years now. So we did receive, or we're going to soon receive, payment for the last contract. It might have already come in in the last couple of weeks or so. However, this contract is through 2027. and you'll see that it's broken down by year, so you're not obligated to pay for it all in one piece, but approximately $1,500 a year, and it's locked in at that. So
And we have nothing in the budget for it.
we budgeted out of the 911 budget before for it, so I think there's a line item for it. I didn't write it down.
Do you know, Katie?
I didn't print the 911 budgets.
She always got my laptop in. I can tell you.
Pardon?
Yeah, we'll look it up. If it's if it was in your budget, it should be there.
Yeah.
So
So you just want approval to spend this out of your budget?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, if it's in the budget, that would be,
yeah, I would move to approve it pending on the availability in the budget that we'll look at. But
Sure.
if it's there, then yeah,
I'll second
we
that.
need the service.
Yeah.
Backup.
All right, so we've moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We love it when you have money in the budget for it.
It happens once in a while.
Once in a while, we get lucky on that stuff, so.
Yeah, the other one's a little more complicated. I think in the past, this item for the mass notification of the reverse 911 hyperreach was taken out of the 911 budget, but I believe with the rules for spending 911 money, this is more of a service of the sheriff and the county, because it really doesn't have anything to do with 911, as it is a service that the sheriff's office provides to the community. So I'm not sure that there's a line item for this particular item. You'll see that it's $4,950. And if there's discussion on the value of it, why is it important? When we first set up this program, all of dispatch is certified to use it, and there's a good SOP in place for it, but it's for mass notification for just about anything that's important to public safety and the community. So I did print off 3 examples. When we first set it up, we didn't even actually have it fully approved through IPAWS, FEMA, but we had the fire, I believe it was a Grand fire that went over to Murray, and we used it, it had just been tested a few times. We used it in 2021, and just the basics of that, we called 218 phone numbers over there.
In a matter of seconds.
In a matter of seconds. It contacted 35 people. Undelivered messages were 183. But 35 people were notified that the fire had changed the wind, and it was an evacuation.
And this reaches people that don't normally have service.
Yes, so there's no
we have a
cell
lot.
service in Murray. This is all the
Right.
Murray Eagle Creek area. No
Okay.
cell service. This program uses all forms of communication, including landlines, emails, text messages, and a handful of other things too. Voice over internet, I believe.
So basically the public signs up for the service?
They can sign up for it. It's free to the public to sign up for it. But even if they don't sign up for it, this calls every landline. So there are basic services that people are automatically contacted.
But when they sign up for it, they can pick and choose how they want the message delivered and what types of messages. Could be weather disturbances, it could be emergency messages. It's very useful.
Yeah. Especially in our area where there's
Yeah.
so many people out in the outer rural areas that don't have.
Yeah.
But this is the annual fee,
I believe so, yes.
and there's no budget for this, or did you budget for it?
It came out of 911 budget, so there's a budget line. My budget, the 911 budget hasn't changed all that much. So there is a line item for it.
So you're just
That'd
looking
be at
for
your
approval to
discretion.
spend out of the budget?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It was paid out of capital expense last year. I got it to come out on his budget. And you don't have capital expense anymore.
So do we not have anything in the budget for it?
Is there something that disaster services can help with as well? If there's an avenue, we can talk to
You know
him
what?
about.
I didn't even think about that.
Let's check with that too. He does have. I mean, this I think would fall under.
It
would
absolutely
be
falls
disaster
under that,
services,
and
so.
I didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at some more options, and then we'll take a look at your budget. And
Okay.
I think it's a significant asset for our people out there in the areas that don't get much, that are hard to get internet and all that.
Well, and I always worry about all the gulches, you know, and then
Right.
you look at fire. Where does fire go? And it happens very quickly, and I want to make sure we have the ability to contact people who live up those gulches if they need to evacuate. It's
Right.
always just something I'm concerned for.
And I just have two other
Yeah.
examples of its use. We have prescribed burns, and there's lots of smoke and flames that can be seen from communities and from the freeway. We used it also on the St. Joe fire in 2023. 230 phone numbers were called. In 2024, prescribed burn at Pine Point at Pinehurst, we attempted 1,293 telephones. They left 625 messages just to let the public know, hey, there's
Exactly.
smoke and fire.
Don't
You
call
know,
911.
Due
Yeah.
to this,
Yes.
yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So-
Good.
So it's very valuable, in my opinion.
I'd definitely like to see it. Let's see how we can fund it and get it.
And we should probably make a note to make sure we keep it in the budget for.
Right.
Good.
Well, and if I can contact Dan about the printer, and then maybe we can set up a meeting to talk to him about the printer and that, and just see if he can come to our office.
Yeah,
'Cause
get
maybe
him
it's
over
something
there.
We can keep in his budget. I get text messages all the time about major snowstorms coming, all of it. I mean, I get a text message on it all the time.
Well, also we're
I think it'd be a
we're
great
not
thing
the
under
only agency
disaster.
that can use it. Fire can use it. I mean, they can't operate it. They have to ask for permission to send a message. We can send a message for them. Any entity, really.
And
we
is
can
this,
send it for.
who all utilizes this? Like, do our fire districts and
They don't,
anyone
but they
else?
can.
They can.
Mhm.
Okay.
County roads could use it for
And then-
snowstorm.
Department of
vehicle
Lands actually
removal, whatever.
requested the Pine Point one.
Yeah. And may I ask, Colleen had,
Just a
This is one
curiosity
we-
question, because you're sending out prescribed burns, is this maybe, if Dan doesn't have something under the FEMA, can we tag in Bill, because fire mitigation, they're doing those prescribed burns, can it come out of the SRS, the Title III?
That's a
No,
good
that's
question.
That's an excellent point.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we just need to find it a place in the budget for the future. But let's not stick it all with the sheriff. Okay. All right. Anything further on that?
No.
Okay, so let's do a little more research on that one. That sounds like a good project. All right, Sheriff, are these going? Are we going down to the bottom of the
I was
list?
actually going to ask Captain what direction you'd like it to go from here.
Probably tell
What about the battery?
the battery.
It's
That
already
was been
taken
done.
care of.
Yeah, we got the batteries.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say probably Captain Lopez, just for the Telmate medical services first, probably. As far as what's an option.
All right,
Can you talk about the Telmate medical option?
so I don't have any numbers today because I'm still doing research. It's something that was given to me by the sheriff just a few days ago, and it was kind of interesting. So the inmates have Telmate. You know what that is, right?
The public won't though.
So it's the way the inmates communicate with their loved ones. They can do classes on there. They can look up codes for their cases and stuff like that. It's just a tool that they get to use, and it's one of the rights that they have.
And it's an internet service.
Kind
It's
of,
for
yeah.
communication.
It's for
They make their phone
communication.
calls on it. They can
Okay.
look up legal things on it.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of things that need to be fixed in the jail, and we narrowed it down to two. And I think one of the most important things right now is jail medical. Right now we have a provider that comes in once a week every Thursday, does about an hour's worth of jail rounds, talks to the inmates. A lot of what my deputies do and myself is if there's a medical concern, we have to reach out via text to get what to do next for a human that's in our custody medically. And so with Telmate, I just found out a couple of days ago that there is a medical service that the inmates can use to reach out if they're having medical issues, which would give us medical 24/7, you know, and mental health. And I still need to come up with the numbers on what this could potentially cost, but it's super, super important that we give the people that are incarcerated the medical attention that they need.
And lawfully, we're required to provide it within a certain time period.
You know, my deputies, they have very little training on medical.
First
I
aid.
mean, we have first aid and how to dispense medications, but I have deputies back there trying to make calls that a doctor should be making a call on. And it's scary making them calls. And I think depending on how this meeting goes with this Telmate program, which is called IV, if it could possibly benefit the sheriff's office, I think it's something we really need to look into.
Our main purpose is looking at reducing liability for the county, and inmate medical is one of the highest liabilities for the county. And so without the ability of having a full-time nurse, which is the industry standard for facilities that have jails in them, this is a pretty good alternative to that. Another issue that we're running into is that we do have a contracted physician's assistant that comes in every Thursday, but he can't make it every Thursday. And so there's weeks that may go by that we don't have a physician seeing the inmates, and that we're using a text message to the physician's assistant to try and get medical determinations on inmates. And it's leaving a lot of heavy decision making on the captain and deputies. And it's a concern for me as the sheriff, knowing that this is a pretty high liability area. So we're just kind of like letting you guys know we're looking into this, kind of get the brains thinking about it a little bit, so that when we get the numbers ready, we can prepare it and bring it over to you and kind of actually consider it as an option.
It's not fair to our employees to put that kind of
It's
decisions on them
heavy
when they
burden.
don't qualify. Yeah.
So you don't have any idea of cost yet?
Not at this time.
Okay.
This is just the, just so you know, we're looking into this, and
Okay.
if you wanted to do any type of research on it in the meantime, feel free, and we'll do our research on our end and have another meeting to present what we found.
Okay. Thank you. What else you got, Captain?
There's one other thing, and they go hand to hand, but I don't know if we want to talk about it yet.
Yeah, well, I was just going to get into that. So that's kind of why we put in future planning, right? Because I felt like last year was a little contentious countywide, right? So it was more of this future planning thing to let you guys know what we're working on and some of the struggles we're going through, saying that, hey, next month or near future, we're going to bring a meeting with all these numbers to give everyone a chance to think through this rather than just a spur-of-the-moment meeting. So what he was just probably about to reference is just to give you guys an update of where we are retention and hiring wise, and some struggles we're going through that we're trying to figure out how to address. And yeah, on the detention side.
So just on the detention side, it's very hard to get applicants in. You know, we'll get people who get excited, they go through the hiring board, they get hired on, they'll last 4 or 5, maybe 6 months and quit. And some of it has to do with the decisions that they have to make in there on the fly, and they're scary decisions. Medical decisions, transport decisions, dealing with biohazard, mental health issues that come in. I have deputies that going hands-on, fighting other inmates to try to calm them down, putting their safety, their life on the line. And, you know, a lot of people get a taste of that, and they don't want it. Sounds exciting at first, and then they get to peek behind the veil and see the big picture of what it is working in a jail. And you know, work in a smaller jail, the difference between a smaller jail and a bigger jail is big jails, you know, they have all these entities. You know, they have transport teams, they have CERT teams, they have booking teams, all this stuff. Each one of my deputies in there constantly has to throw on a different hat and has to know at least the basics to get through whatever situation that they're in, whether it's a transport, a medical, a fight, a riot, something sexual that happened in there. And it scares a lot of people off, and it's hard to retain people. And so I don't know what the fix is yet, whether it's, you know, up in the starting pay or better training for them. But if, you know, being at minimum staffing, it's hard. It's hard to give inmates the medical attention that they need. You know, if I'm short 3 or 4 deputies and I have them spots open and nobody's filling them spots, and I have an emergency where a deputy has to go to a hospital, or there's a protective custody hold at a hospital. Now I'm taking a deputy out of the jail, watching an inmate at the hospital while they're getting some care, which leaves one deputy on by him or herself with 48 other individuals that could snap at any second. And after people realize what they're getting into, a lot of times they're like, yeah, this isn't for me.
Can you tell me how many people were down, just so the BOCC knows in the public? How many
So,
people in detention?
Right now we are down 2, and but we have 2 spots open. But by the end of December, I will be down 3 more. I have one of my deputies going to patrol. I can't speak on the other one right now, but and then I have 2 at the Post Academy, and one just got injured. So that one's going to be on light duty.
And the other one?
And the other one, that's at Post.
Yeah, didn't pass his first
Yeah, he didn't pass
physical
his
fitness test.
First
and
physical fitness test, so now they're giving him one more shot, and if he doesn't pass it at the end of his academy, then we won't have him anymore either.
So one of the problems is that with the standards required to work in detention, you know, it's ability, it's intelligence, it's physical ability. We're having a problem being able to get applicants who fulfill these standards, and one of the biggest things that we're having an issue with is physical fitness. It's just an issue that we're having being able to hire people who can pass the physical fitness standards. So a lot of that we just want to make sure the BOCC is aware that we're having those issues. Even with the openings that we have in the jail, we've been advertising the openings now for over 2 months, and we've had 2 applicants apply, one of them which is not even a consideration. So it's putting us in a very sensitive area as far as staffing goes. So part of that's just to put you make you aware that that is an issue that we're struggling with.
Yeah, it's not a job for just anybody.
It takes a certain person.
And then my part of that is then I was going to talk about the Iron on Patrol side. We had an opening. We lost one of our best detectives. That's taking a huge strain on us as far as even administrative staff doing detective work. But we put an opening for the position. 3 people applied. 1 took a job elsewhere for double the wages. Another took it for 50% higher wages, and then the third didn't pass the background requirements. So thus, you had to hire from within, which further strains the jail because he's one of your best.
Yes, he is.
But we're already regularly operating below minimum staffing on patrol side when it's out there. So it's very difficult to be, and we had 0 applicants from anyone in this region. Not one, and not even interest. So So just as far as, that's kind of why the future planning portion was on it. And so we were probably going to ask for a meeting sometime next month to even go over a few ideas. We even have possibly to reduce some costs, but just to put in reality of last year how the budget crunched down. By the numbers I ran, it appears we lost about $61,000 total, which isn't crazy when the public hears that, but when costs went up across the board approximately 6% over the last 2 years, but obviously those things did not happen. So just as far as a forewarning, so maybe we can all come together next month and discuss a way forward.
Yeah, because that's what we're after,
Mm-hmm.
is the way forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that sum it up for everybody? Everybody cover their topics?
That's it, Sheriff?
Yes, sir.
Did you want more?
I was waiting for the good, now comes all the good news.
I think violent crime and crime is going to be down
Thank you.
significantly this year.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Massively.
Thank you, because the Sheriff's Department is being effective. We appreciate that.
Yes,
So,
appreciate all of the whole team's work over there. You guys are amazing.
So are you guys.
yeah. Well, we appreciate it, and we will keep working with you to make it work as best we can. Some of these we don't have answers to either. If we got to find more people like Eli over here.
He's one of a kind.
Everyone needs one.
All right, we're all finished. Then I guess we are adjourned.